If we could cut through the tea leaves and you read between the lines a bit here, the government keeps on saying there was a dissenting report in the Aged Care Royal Commission, so not even the commissioners agreed. And what we see in the newspapers this morning is an $18 billion package, but by my calculations, that would still be about $46 billion short. I hate to start on a pessimistic note, but how do you see things?
Well, I think we'll wait to see. Obviously, it seems like a significant investment, but there's a lot to do, and really that's the question. And to me, what's lost a bit in the debate, it's not just about the dollars, it's like, do we actually value caring for our elderly in the way that they deserve? And the Royal Commission, the more I read it, the more heartbroken I was. It's really hard to read what has happened over the past 20 years. So, yes, this is a start, but our workers, day in, day out, they do an incredible job, but we need more of them. They need to be paid well, they need to be trained, and they are the ones that are going to deliver the care. So in terms of the early indications, it does appear as if that's where the federal government is focusing. But this is a long-term challenge, and it's going to take a long time to get to the position we need to, which is actually getting the care that our elderly deserve and need.
You say it's not more about money, it's values and how we view our older Australians. But when you have some of these workers only earning $21 an hour, that is something the government can fix, can't it?
Well, yeah, imagine that. I've got sort of kids that can get all types of jobs and they can earn more than that in hospitality roles, whereas I've seen what our workers do. And to say, as Australians, for $21 an hour, they are making a difference to someone's life. And that's literally what they're doing. They're improving their quality. They're giving them every opportunity to be independent, to give them dignity. It is life-changing, purpose-filled work, but we just haven't recognised that. And the expectation is we need, over the next 3 or 4 years, 50,000 more workers. Well, it's long-term attracting with increased pay, much better training, more support, and really that's what it's about. So I think, if the government gets to the position that they really want to sort of give our elderly the care they deserve, well, we've got to pay those. We need to support them in the way to give that care. So we'll see what tomorrow brings, but, we seem to have a significant start, but we'll wait.
You seem pretty realistic about what can be changed in a time frame in which it can be done. What are your top 3 things that you want to see? What are the top 3 most important things you've got to see in tomorrow's budget?
Well, the funding has to go first and foremost to our care staff. So, we're very hopeful that there is something about wages. We're very hopeful that there's capacity to put more care workers on. I've had the chance to be alongside some of our staff. I've watched what they do. They're doing an incredible job, but they need more support. We need sort of more staff to provide that care, and they need to be trained. That is critical. We saw there's unnecessary pain that has come through a lack of palliative care training. There's a lack of dementia training across the sector. Those are the sort of things that can make a real difference to the quality of someone's life. So that's what we hope to see. And I also think there's an onus on providers. This is not just, please give us more money, that'll fix the problem. Yes, that's going to be part of it. But as providers, we have to be open and honest. We need to be much more transparent. We have to be very open on how we're spending the money and performance. In the US, there was a STAR system. The Royal Commission talks about a STAR system. I think that would be a significant enhancement because, in the US, they showed that STAR system is in place and those with the higher ratings perform much better during COVID. So the onus on us to deliver the best possible care and to share that, I think that's really important. And I really think the third thing would be an independent sort of pricing provider where someone can determine the pricing, because it shouldn't be determined around what do we need to provide around an ERC or a budget table. It should be what is the cost of care needed, and having someone independent to do that, I think that would be a very significant part of the reform going forward.
The Royal Commission says it's about $15 billion a year to fund aged care in an adequate way. The government has indicated, as I mentioned at the top of the interview, $18 billion package. That would suggest over 4 years. What is your expectations about what the government should do in the private sector? Together, will that bridge the gap, or does the private sector need to step up a little bit more?
I think that the Independent Pricing Authority can do that. That's, regulators do both. It's what's the cost of care and then what's the efficient provision of that care. And, so there's an onus on both in that. Look, I mean, whether the government is thinking about wages through the Fair Work Commission case that's currently sort of underway, so maybe that is going to be something that's going to be considered post the budget, I don't know. But if these additional funds have come in and the Fair Work case is where they're going to address the wages, well, maybe that starts to get to a position where we're in obviously a much better position than we are today.
Skills is a big issue. The borders are closed, in case anyone didn't notice, and we've lost a lot of those in the skilled workforce because under JobKeeper they didn't have any kind of safety net, so they did go home if you had a temporary visa. I mean, that is a big problem. Can you anticipate how long that is going to take? We don't know when borders will reopen. The government's talking about reskilling workers, but that seems years off.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and that's one thing. It's one thing to say we're going to allocate the funding to one of the home care, the waiting lists. I mean, it's a real challenge. But you can allocate the funding, but you can only actually get into the wait list and deal with the care needed by having the staff. And the numbers are significant, which is why, the career path and the opportunity we provide for them, the wages, I mean, this is a unique opportunity. If you think of those workers that are in hospitality and they've seen some of the challenges through COVID, I mean, they're considering and open, and we're seeing some people come to us. So it's a chance with us and government to talk about the incredible value that being a care worker is, and, reflected both in terms of pay and training and career paths. And I think it's a unique opportunity, and, I would love the opportunity to talk to schools and universities. Yeah. When people are thinking about a career, I've seen it. The difference you can make, your care, the difference you can make to that person in front of you, their family, their friends, it's life-changing. And those sort of careers don't come across that often, and I really think this is the chance for aged care to stand up and be a career choice for many.
Well, you know how Federation works, and it works well, and there are, some drawbacks, and we've seen that over the last year. But aged care is in this kind of weird position where it's under the federal government's jurisdiction, but the federal government doesn't really do service delivery. Do you think perhaps it would be better if it came under the states to run?
Well, look, I mean, that'd probably take a longer discussion.
Put your Premier hat back on.
Look, there's a role for both. Look, if you think of palliative care, a good example, the palliative care, having sort of those at the end of their life go into hospitals, I mean, the cost of that versus having the capacity to care for someone sort of dying, which is a choice of about 3/4 of Australian, they'd rather die in their home. So having that funded, on a state basis, would actually bring sort of budget relief, because you're reducing those going into hospital, you're providing what people want in their home. So there's a role for state government there. And look, I mean, I think the crossover between aged care is difficult. I mean, obviously GPs are a big part of that. But look, from my point of view, the onus is on us to make the most of it as providers. Certainly streamlining Commonwealth and state government responsibilities is part of it, but I think both have a role to play.
And I just want to take a moment to express our condolences to you and your family for your wonderful mum who died late last month. So we're sorry to hear that news, and she was a wonderful lady that touched so many people, and we've seen those tributes. So
no, thanks, Laura. She was a wonderful person, incredible mum, and I saw those who were caring for her, and at the funeral I couldn't really put words to it on how much it meant to see the carers and what they did. She'd been struggling for many years with a terrible illness, and the care and the nurture that they gave, that we couldn't, just a reminder to me of how important, what aged care does, and all those workers across the country. There's many examples of where it's not done well, but so many where it is. My mum's just another example where it made a real difference.
She's wonderful. I've heard those private and public stories, and she was certainly an incredible woman. It wasn't in the public spotlight like many of you and your family members. So, Mike Baird, really appreciate your time, and hopefully we get what is needed in this budget tomorrow.
Thanks, Laura.